So 3 then.
Oh yeah, so that was the one that what I did with you.
So it's faster than that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, can we do this? Alright. What are the other questions? Alright. Hi guys, so my name is Lucy Bartholomew and this is my dad Ash. And we decided that I am in a really unique situation being a young person in ultra running, and I thought it was a really cool concept to kind of get parents or young runners to ask me questions, to ask my dad or to ask me, and for us to answer it, because there's not that many of me out there. There's only one Lucy. Okay, so I have the questions on my phone and we're just gonna shoot through them and get our opinions on them.
And I haven't heard them before.
You haven't heard them. Dad hasn't heard them. We wanted the raw and real answers. Alright, so this is for you. How do I get my daughter enthusiastic about coming for a trail run with me?
Look, I can only speak from experience for Lucy, and I don't think, there's no handbook how to raise kids. Lucy just came to me one day when I was running and just asked if she could join along, and it was just yes. I didn't think she'd last that long, and then the weeks turned into months sort of thing, and she was running faster than I, so it was just a natural. So I think just keep being the role model and hopefully they just gravitate towards it.
Yeah, I think that Dad made it look really fun. He was always going away for the weekend. He was making it more about the whole experience rather than the run itself. It was kind of, he'd find a cool cafe, he went and tented or camped or got a van or something. And so that excited me rather than like the running side. I was kind of going for the food and the accommodation.
I think that came later. When you first started running, make it fun, but just let them come to you.
This is for you as well.
Okay.
How did your dad balance pushing you versus encouraging you? Did you want to go on every run?
I think it was probably more holding you back. The motivation was there, that was self-evident. I suppose the balance of school and everything else. And then, like I say, the weekends were during what we spoke about. So on a Wednesday, we started planning where we were going to go and what we were going to do. But I think in the early days when she was at school, so the school still kept the priority. And it was holding her back more than encouraging her to go any further.
Yeah. How do you convince your dad that you're not destroying yourself, and how do you stay away from injury? So I think for this one, convincing my dad, I mean, Dad understands the addiction and the love that comes with running. I mean, he's in it himself. And so it was about sharing it and it having a balance, especially at school. So I think that, convincing Dad was just kind of showing my commitment, showing my time management, and, really kind of balancing out life, I think, would be what I would...
What's the question?
What did I do to convince you that I'm not destroying myself?
You stayed injury-free, pretty much. I think there was only one occasion when you did a run, a big one that I thought, potential risk versus reward wasn't there. But I think for all the other ones, it's been a fairly good balance. And I suppose it's that risk-reward sort of ratio that I look towards. Yeah,
and I think that Dad and we were able to, the training was done together, so it was never it was only when I started to do other runs by myself and go further and try and go faster and higher and things like that it probably took a little bit more convincing. But in the early stages, it was a team effort.
Yeah, and all the runs unstructured. It was just time on the legs. There was nothing regimented and speed work and stuff like that. It was really just out for a good time.
This is my favourite question. So this person says, I recently listened to your podcast on Dirt Church Radio, and it struck me how ingenious as a parent that your dad so quickly at Eurobilla, seeing you're struggling, managed to give you a valid, proactive, and most importantly, on-the-spot solution to your problems. He then goes on to talk about it, but he says, I'm so impressed by his ability to see everything in a larger format and lift you up from afar. Are there any other nuggets of advice you can share?
Good question. I've been dying to say that in the Q&A. That's a good question.
It's really interesting.
I'd love to say yes, but nah. Look, I think again with Lucy, the running's just been organic. It's just grown. Did I identify her as a good runner? Not really. I would have doubted the fields that she kind of competed against in some instances with the number of females in running and stuff like that, and it's just great to see that obviously increase. But look, I've got no pearls of wisdom to give, just to have a good time, and I think Lucy, the few things they have said, smile a lot, and give back to the community. Both those things Lucy's just taken on board and taken to a different level to probably how I employ them.
Yeah, I think that Dad says things that probably don't seem like pearls of wisdom, and sometimes, I'll rephrase what he says in my posts that make it sound far more.
Oh, that's such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, but I mean, like the meaning and what he says is very it really holds true to me, and I hold on to it. I think more than what he probably thinks that I will. Cool. How did you ensure that you didn't get injured when and still while you try to get better and faster with your running? And when you were younger, how did you fit the training in with other commitments such as school and work? So for the injury, I think that, like Dad said, a lot of what we did was just junk miles, I think is what it's called these days. But it was all just slow, easy. We were talking, we were eating, we were just making it a really sustainable act. And it's only in the last maybe 2 years that I've decided to try and go faster and longer and really give a nudge to some specific sessions. And I think that I put down having a really good coach for small amounts of time. I've had coaches to build me towards races, and they've all taught me something about when is good to push and how slow your easy runs should be. But I think that that's probably my biggest asset is my base that we built. We built it from 16 to, 20, I was just kind of running easy Ks a lot and just enjoying it. And then with time management, I think that this is something that I definitely struggled with, but it was kind of, I had a job at Baker's Delight, and so I would run before school, I'd go to school, I'd come back from school, go to work, and then I just fit it in wherever I could, but the main run was the weekend run, and so that was kind of the priority. Did I do anything that was...
No, but when you break that down, that's the perfect training plan, a couple of runs midweek, possibly, and some of those were on ovals, doing repeats and bits and pieces, some of it was barefoot, but it was the variety. So there's two things to take away: consistency, and to keep consistency, just have variety. And I think we had limited around us in the Burundara, it's fairly flat, and I think Lucy made the best of what she had. And then the weekends we got a little bit more sort of adventurous, and like we said earlier, just the camping trips, the weekends away, and just travelling to races made it so much more fun.
So this person says, my mum never liked me running longer distances as she thinks running lots in her youth caused her current arthritis. Is your dad concerned about that, and does your youthful excitement about running ever clash with his hard-earned wisdom?
Some good questions.
So much wisdom.
Look, I don't plan too much ahead. I think Lucy's picked that up from me and stuff like that. And if you start to worry about long-term arthritis, I don't think you're just going to enjoy the moment. So, no, I haven't. And I suppose with trail running, potentially the next step could be a trip and a fall. So you've just got to embrace it, trust yourself, and not have those doubts.
Yeah, I think, and like that's something that I'm well aware of, what could be the repercussions of it. And I think that it's gotten to a point where, I can only help myself towards that with, listening to my body and eating really well. And, I think that the base that we built, has set my body up to be really strong. And I've had scans that have shown my bone density and stuff, and it's all really strong. So that's, it's all individual. Was he the one who introduced you to running and ultra running? Was he an ultra runner always? And is that how you got the bug?
For myself, I started about 30, I suppose, started running, and it was just a typical bucket list, run a marathon. So I suppose I ran 2 marathons a year for I don't know, the best part of 20 years. So I've done 20 Melbourne marathons and a few other ones, and then just gravitated to trails. And then Lucy just one day sort of saw the training and decided she'd like to tag along and have a go, and it really just came from that.
Yeah, I think Dad was training for his first 100 kilometre, being the North Face 100, which is now the UTA 100. And, I saw him training for that, and then I went up and I saw what this sport was about. I saw the elites come through. I saw Brendan Davies and Beth Cardelli, and then I saw Dad in the mid-pack, and then I saw like the back of the pack as well, and I saw these people holding like cake and lollies and just, having fun. And I think that, that I got the bug at that race, and that's why it's a race that I always try and return to. We ran side by side for my first 100 kilometre, being the Surf Coast Century, when I was 15. And it's been just like a journey ever since then.
Yeah, and I think the planet's just aligned. Lucy was 15 when I was 50. And I was probably moving off the road because I'd broken my 3 hours for the marathon. I wasn't going to get any quicker. And then did a 6-foot track, and that was my first, really realisation of trail running. And I just loved the weekend away, I suppose. That was fun. The backpackers up in Katoomba, obviously the scenery. And when I came back, I really wanted to take the family up to see it. And the next occasion was when I eventually trained for the Ultra Trail Australia. And again, I was super nervous about doing that. The idea of a 100k run, carrying what sounded like a day pack of equipment, running at night when I'm sort of challenged to stay on the track. They were all good, exciting elements, and that's when Lucy came across, and she trained with me, and then earned the right to come up and and crew me. And during that, I bet she said saw the whole gamut of runners, from the elites to the back of the packers and everyone in between. And for those who do trail running, they're the best people, and that's what you take away.
How did your dad feel when you started travelling the world? Was he worried that you were so far away?
Yeah, jealous. Why couldn't it be me? Where was my opportunity? Yeah, I don't know, you go through that. Stoked. I was lucky enough to backpack when I left school for 8 years, and for Lucy to experience life in that way with the support of Solomon sponsors and everyone else. Couldn't have been pleased. And I've just got to say, as much as these questions are sort of what I've taught Lucy, because of the age, when she got into running, say she was 15, I was 50, her sort of rise has sort of re-motivated and revitalised myself, because I'm sure I would have just done the normal sort of midlife crisis and just, probably faded away from running. But with Lucy getting into it and being so talented as it turned out, and I literally now want to run with her. And again, during some of those training runs when she was doing a long, slow distance run, I was doing a tempo run just to sort of stay within eyesight of her. So it's been sort of two careers, and it's been just yin and yang sort of thing. I've certainly gained in the last 4 or 5 years, probably more so than what I gave Lucy in those initial period.
That's nice.
Deep, wasn't it?
Pearl of wisdom.
Yeah, just another one.
How hard did your dad push you when he realised you had potential, or were you completely self-motivated? I wonder this with my talented daughter. There was no pushing, I don't think.
No, because I don't think I still don't know how good you are. And it's just weird, Again, I'll go back to that kind of the crossroads in ages that we were, and Lucy was just, as any 15-year-old, getting stronger, and was just showed the dedication and the motivation and the consistency, all the things we've spoken about. And then I was at that crossroads when I was slightly getting a little bit injured, and I've had more of a down path trajectory since then. But no, what's the question again?
Well, I'm self-motivated is the real answer. I mean, I think it has to come from you, and especially in the longer distances, the reasons to stop are so great. You're out there and you're uncomfortable for a lot of period of time, and for young adults and teenagers, it's these days we're not used to being uncomfortable. You know, we have our phones, we can talk to Siri if we want to, and we can turn heaters on. Siri can tell you if your marriage is going badly. So I think that, you know, it has to come from you, otherwise, you know, there's a million and one reasons why to stop. So Dad was very much just kind of, I had to either do it, or he was fine to just let me, you know, go clubbing instead. Maybe.
I think a bit of clubbing would have given you some balance, but so.
We watched Mamma Mia last night. It was a rave. All right, the two of you are plant-based, right? Can you please tell me about what you eat and fuel with?
No, we're not plant-based. This one is. I'm just natural. Lucy cooks for me a lot, and you know, we buy the food together and stuff like that. So there's a lot of sort of super healthy stuff, but I still certainly eat meat and fish and other bits and pieces. So I'm not plant-based, but probably with Lucy living with me, get a little bit more towards it. But no, I'm a...
He's a convenience plant-based eater.
I eat my ice cream.
Yeah. No, I think like Dad's tried to eat this, you know, more so towards the plant-based way of eating, but I really don't believe that it works for everybody. And with Dad's work and then training and just like his life, it's a lot harder. I have a lot of time in the day to cut my vegetables up into little soldiers and and present my food. And so it's really hard for him to get all the nutrients, and he's pretty susceptible to low iron.
Yeah.
And
low B12.
And B12. So two things which are just so key for, especially as an athlete. And we just choose not to.
I'll take that. Calling me an athlete.
You choose not to mess with them. So yeah. How easy is it for him to continue to push you forward as an athlete and still worry for you as a parent?
Not at all. It's I reckon the only time I've kind of felt a little concerned, you know, I did a run with Lucy. We were camping up in Harrietville in the Australian Alps, and I was doing a particular run, and then Lucy's at 5:30 in the morning said, you know, she'll take a different path, and she went with her head torch down a road and said, I'm going to go up the West Ridge and, you know, drop down behind Dimatina and come up this way and everything else. And I'm thinking, gosh, I'm sending this sort of, you know, 18-year-old girl off with a, you know, a head torch, a mobile phone that's got absolutely no credit on it, and out of service. You know, she only takes about 500 mils of water. I doubt you'd have had a first aid kit. And like happy as Larry, she went off. And I suppose that's the only time I've really kind of said, I don't know, this is probably the best of, you know, parenting 101. And as it turned out, she passed me. I don't know, we were coming down the last 3Ks, she passed me. She did 60Ks, I think I did about 38, 40, something like that. But no, I don't overly worry about it. Not now. But like I say, one step away from rolling an ankle most of the time, so I trust that she's pretty good now.
I think you've always kind of, your philosophy with parenting has always been like, you know, like let them learn by falling over, you know, kind of that mentality. And so it was...
I'm thinking of that comic you sent me.
Flat edged.
Private joke.
Yeah, so I think that's always been just the way you've let me be, and I think that's why I've always pushed the boundaries a little bit, is because it's kind of, well, if nothing's gone wrong yet, then, you know, to see how far we can go.
Yeah, and look, I've seen you run down and you flow down and stuff, as do, you know, most of the good runners. So I don't want to put doubt in your mind to second guess. So I just, enjoy.
Alright, this one. What do you say to your parents when you're super proud of a performance you had, but you're not, when they are super proud of your performance, but you are not satisfied with yourself? Do you tell your parents before signing up for a crazy, long, dangerous race? Or do you sign up and then tell them? How do they react? Were they supportive from the beginning? I think with this, I mean, you know, me and Dad would enter races together, and I needed his parent signature for the first part of my journey. And then as it's gotten more, I mean, I've been given opportunities and I can just sign up for things now. And because I don't usually have to pay all the fees, which I don't probably have the money for, I'm a little bit more independent. But I think that, in terms of satisfaction from my parents, I mean, my parents will be proud of me for just starting a race, whether I finish it, whether I don't. And, I'll always look back and think that there were strengths and weaknesses to every race, and, there's ways that I could improve, and I think that that's what makes me a good athlete. But, also I've got to put that in perspective and be like, okay, there was some parts to improve, but, I'm really proud of myself, because how many young adults are running this far and putting themselves in this situation. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that just signing up is a win, and getting to the start line, probably the biggest win. So I think that that's just something that is more to do with how you feel rather than what your parents feel.
Yeah, I think anything to add to that is, like, Lucy and I have a good relationship, and we talk a lot about the events coming up because I'm as interested. And not every race that Lucy does is a race to win. Sometimes they're just a B grade race to get to that main one. So, and people on Facebook, once Lucy signs up, there's going to be race reviews, and they're putting Lucy up the top as one to beat. I've spoken with her prior, and it's just like, just enjoy this run, do it as a negative split, do it as a positive split, pick up some tempos, turn it into a race that's going to benefit your long-term goal. So I think a lot of what you see, just the perception isn't always the truth. And sometimes if she finishes off the podium, if that happens, it's not necessarily a bad race, it's just probably a stepping stone.
Yeah. This
Another
one,
pearl?
that was definitely in the clan. Alright, my 7-year-old loves running and running fast. How far or long should I let him run? I'm in no position to give advice on that.
Yeah, how long's a piece of string? Just let him have fun and stuff like that.
7 years old, I think he can just run around in the dirt.
Just use the carrot, not the stick approach. Just, pros.
Yeah. I always wonder what impact your high intensity training has on your hormones. So for me, it affects some of my hormones in terms of having our period and how heavy that is. So when I'm training towards a big race, it tends to lighten up or to miss a month or so. But then I'm very aware of kind of bringing that back, and I know how I can do that with food and resting. And but other than that, I think I'm pretty good, and I get my blood test done. And do you check for hormones in blood tests?
Okay.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, well, everything seems to be pretty sweet. And I base it more of just how I feel. I mean, if your hormones are out of whack, you're gonna feel out of whack. And I like to think that I'm thriving the way that I'm living, and you work out what works and what doesn't.
I'll just say one other thing to that is one of the runs when Lucy first started running, and people always say, what do you talk about when you run because you have so much time? And I was right in the early stage, and I remember Lucy saying, halfway through the run, I've missed my period or something like that. And then we sort of ran in silence for the next minute while I digested it. And thought, what pearl of wisdom do I have here? And then I kind of said, assuming you're not sexually active, then don't worry about it. It's just, your training and life and school and stuff like that. Yeah. But I suppose the only reason I say that, that's some of the great, if my daughter can talk to me and ask me questions like that, I felt really proud after that run. Not so much how I answered the question, but the fact that Lucy could actually bring that conversation up, which is so taboo in the society, it seems. And
now I tell him what my poo looks like, what colour it is. There's nothing off limits.
No, there's another podcast in that.
Let's go with 2 more. Mm-hmm. How do you get through the hard times? What's your dad's number 1 tip?
In running?
Yeah.
Gosh, all the power of now and all these bits and pieces. Yeah, break it up into small sections. Sometimes I'm just, once I'm over halfway, it's closer to the finish than the start. But generally, I'm a stubborn, a little bit like Lucy, and if I start one, I'm going to finish it purely for the cost and everything that I've invested into the race and stuff like that. I can't. I stopped to walk lots and stuff like that. So I'm not too sure. a lot of the runs, I know Lucy's running, or Lucy is in that race, because we race together a lot of the time, although she's 2 or 3 hours ahead. That's kind of a motivation, that I want to sort of, get to the finish line to see her in bits and pieces, and if there's circuit races or loops and stuff like that, I'll find out how she's going along the way. But it's pretty much the same old that you hear from everyone, just, one foot in front of the other, left, right, left.
Last one.
Hit me.
What was your motivation to try your first ultra? Did you have worries or doubts? And how important was it to have your dad's support? So for this one, my first ultra was the Walhalla 50k, which we ran the week before, or 2 weeks before the Surf Coast Century. And it was more because Dad and I suddenly worried that we hadn't done enough training, so we thought we'd enter half the distance and be like, if we can do that, we know we're stubborn enough to get through the next 50. So he had my support because we both were in agreement that we needed to find reassurance. So yeah, that was the support. My motivation was to do this, stepping stone towards the 100k, and that was always a big dream of mine, was to run the 100k. And yeah, really cool to share that with Dad. Worries and doubts of the first ultra. I think, I was never really concerned. Dad had told me that, like in a marathon at 30k's, you'll hit the wall. There's this thing called the wall that's going to hit you and you're going to feel tired. And I think that I ran really oblivious to kind of those stories, and I just ran with like pure just happiness in being able to run and sharing it with my dad, and we talked and we ate lots of food, and I baked a lot of things for us to snack on along the way. And I think I don't think I had any worries or doubts. I think that going into a lot of my races, I know what the potential risks are, and I think about those things, but at the same time, I'm someone who tries to believe that, it's going to be a good experience, and even if it's a hard experience, it's still worth having and worth living through for the future.
Yeah, I don't think I know I told you about the wall hypothetically, but I remember in a training run, again, it was on the O'Shaughnessy Aqueduct in Warby, and we'd gone out to the weir and turned around, which I think is about 34. Mm-hmm. And then you just said, can we keep going? Let's make it 42. Let's make it a round marathon. It's not that much further. And I can sit you then, most people would call it quitsy because, hypothetically they hit the wall and stuff like that. And I think Lucy was so young, but she didn't know about the wall, and I didn't want to tell her about it because I think once you put that self-doubt in, it can manifest itself. Mm. And so I think Lucy had pretty much run oblivious. I know she's done her own homework and found out the rationale behind it.
Certainly bonked before, certainly blown up.
So yeah, you found it. But I think that's a hurdle we put in front of ourselves sometimes, and it's an excuse that we just use for maybe if you hit it at the 32k mark in a marathon, it's sometimes not just because you bonked from sugars and glucose, it's because you probably haven't done the training.
Yeah.
Which is a tough probably answer, but at the end of the day, I think probably just as correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet. Well, thank you, Dad. Thanks for sitting down.
There we go.
And I hope that some of these answers answered some of your questions. And if you have any others, let us know and we can always do another one. But otherwise, good luck, and we'll see you out there.
Thank you.
See you.